Okay, so 12 Million Black Voices, parts 3 and 4. We I chose a kind of twofold climax for my significant moments. So it begins at the end of of part 3, in which Wright is writing, in which things are just spiraling down. We're seeing the despair of children and the and the disunity of the families, the children are going out to fight pretty much a lost cause. And then on the other flip side, you have part 4, which shows this newfound unity between the whites and the blacks, which leads us to a which leads us to themes of choice and freedom, to where you have to make a decision between going forward with this new relationship, or being afraid of it and sticking with the old. So, you have the freedom to. So the freedom here, on one side, it's like you have the freedom to freedom to like, do whatever you want, but on the other hand, people saw it as you're still living in a white society. So there's the theme of fear, which happens on both sides. You have the whites afraid of the blacks and the blacks afraid of the whites, which fear is this common thing that the lords of the land and bosses of the buildings use to keep everyone else down against each other. So there are two forms of death that were involved, and the first death was at the end of 3, where things were just spiraling down, where Wright was afraid that the black race was just going to die out. And then you have Death 2.0, which is the second part, in which the blacks are deciding to willingly give up the old way and accept the new way in which you assimilate, and everyone works together for with common interests and common goals. So next we have the journey. This feels really fast. Black History, I felt, was an epic journey that this it gets all it's a whole plethora of emotions and things that happened, but it happened only in a fraction of the time. We all know how long Pokemon takes, and that it really needs to stop. But the Black journey happened, and even in comparison to like the white history, blacks, it was such rich history condensed in such a short time, and it's really interesting to see that journey is like that. Um, That's more of the fantastic journey. I'm sorry, not to show the same thing again, but it's this kind of shows basically at the beginning what they were facing when they were deciding between North and South. They pretty much just left. At first, they pretty much just left because they wanted something different, and but as they came to the North, they started to realize that things were different, but not exactly in the best way, or some things were not different at all. So one big thing that came up was the world of things versus world of people, and they were used to a world of people in the South where they were abused by people, and now we see things like the kitchenettes, which pretty much did everything that the lords of the land and the horrors of the South did, except all of this stuff is happening to them by a thing is doing all of these bad things to them. But a commonality between the North and the South is the manipulation by the haves, and they use the blacks as these so-called I never forgot the word, but they use them to keep everyone on the lower levels against each other to maintain power. So one of the things I wanted to ask about was this collective consciousness that Wright writes in this first-person plural narrative and what that actually means. Next would be like Black America. He was talking about how the things would be different if only they were if only blacks were more involved in the history which they basically were the center of. And uh, hard work. That was the only way that blacks were able to get to where they were. And you could have taken the easy. I mean, on one hand, you may have been able to just give them what they wanted, but would that actually have been a better solution? And finally, in the modern era, you see all sorts of things that are different. You see blacks supposedly having progress, but how much progress have we actually made? And who is writing to today, and how does the message apply in this? I actually have to reform the last question. But yeah, that's that. I don't know why that went so quickly.
It went perfect, man. 6 minutes, 40 seconds.
Oh.
That's exactly the way it's supposed to go. Would you like to read your questions to us?
Yes. Sorry for the pause. Okay. Yeah, which did Wright think was a better place to live, if either the North or the South? What is the purpose of writing with a collective consciousness perspective, the first person? So, like, what idea was he trying? What is he trying to say about the black people versus the individual, etc. What is? Why is he taking you through the journey as if he's one person, but he's also everyone? How would America be different if blacks were given the freedom and equality they deserve instead of having to work for it? And would Wright have preferred it if they were just given the freedom and the equality versus actually having to work for it? And the last one, we're just to scratch that, but I wanted to revisit who this book was, who this was actually written for, and what is he be saying to a modern society?
Those are excellent questions. So we have a hand round. Why don't we do our question time? Our minister's question time. Everyone could talk.